boys and girls. We're back to election blues today. Happy Friday. You survived a week of school. I'm going to be reading chapter 7 to you today, Bark in the Park. Remember from yesterday, they were taking Copper to the baseball game. It was called Bark in the Park. And Alex had a funny feeling something might go wrong. So let's see if he was right. Chapter 7. After we left Pizza Palace, Dad pulled up in front of Danielle's house. Why are we here? I asked hesitantly. Mom smiled. Well, since TJ couldn't come tonight, we figured we'd give your cousin a ride to the game. I sunk down in my seat. Oh, great, I mumbled. This day just kept getting better. Danielle and I had not been on the best terms since TJ chose me as his campaign manager. I don't see why she blamed me, though. It's not like I had volunteered for the position. And now I'd have to put up with her giving me the cold shoulder all night. Or worse yet, lecturing me about how I need to be more responsible. Blah, blah, blah. Dad beeped and Danielle strode out the door with Emily following behind her. I gulped. Emily is coming too? I asked, my cheeks burning. Do you remember Emily from the last two books? The prettiest girl in the grade, and Alex has a huge crush on her if you forgot. Mom smiled at Dad. She was on to me. Yep, Emily is coming too. That's okay with you, right, Alex? She asked, winking at me. Sure. The more, the merrier, I stammered. Dylan giggled. Ooh, it's Alex's girlfriend. Are you going to marry her, Alex? He asked as the girls approached the car. Quiet, I shouted at him, swatting his arm. Ow, Alex hit me, Dylan cried. I turned bright red. Please stop, I hissed at him as the side door slid open. Hi, girls, Dad said. Hi, Uncle Bob, said Danielle. Hi, Mr. and Mrs. Baker, said Emily. Hey, boys, why don't you hop back to the third row with Copper to make room for the girls? I climbed into the back row, trying to clear off the seat, which was littered with empty soda bottles and chip bags. The third row was kind of a dumping ground for our junk. Mom and Dad didn't look back there too often, so they didn't know how bad it really was. Emily climbed in and said, Thanks for the ride, Mr. and Mrs. Baker. Sure thing, Dad said. Emily spun around to face us. Hi, boys. I grinned. Hi, I said, hoping she didn't notice the mess. Danielle rolled her eyes and mumbled, Hey, Alex. Then she glanced over her shoulder at the back seat and shook her head. Honestly, Alex, you should clean up your mess. It's a real pigsty back there. Thanks for pointing that out, Emily, I hissed. Or thanks for pointing that out, Danielle, I hissed. Emily giggled and looked at Copper, who had his head peeking over the seat between me and Dylan. Hi, Copper, she said. How's my buddy? Are you coming to the game too? We're going to have a lot of fun with you. Copper barked in agreement. Sometimes I wondered why she and Danielle were friends. They were total opposites. When we got to the park, the attendants showed us to our seats, which were totally awesome. We were right behind the first baseline. Thank you, Miss Riley, I whispered under my breath. Dad had a firm hold on Copper and led him right to our row, and Copper was being pretty good. He had stopped along the way to lick a chihuahua and bark at a feisty beagle who was pulling on his chain. But other than that, there were no real problems. He wasn't pulling on the leash or charging on the field like I had imagined he might do. I felt relieved and thought that maybe it wouldn't be so bad having him at the game with us. I looked around. There were a lot of people who had brought their dogs. If they could manage it, so could we. When we found our row, Dylan shouted, I want to sit by Alex, and he plopped down in the seat beside me. I sighed, but then Emily sat on the other side of me. She smiled. Is it okay if I sit here, Alex? I blushed. Sure. Why not? By the third inning, things were going great. We had awesome seats, our team was winning, and I was sitting next to Emily. What could possibly go wrong? Maybe I was worried for no reason. I began to relax and enjoy the game. The Rail Hoppers were in the lead. That's when their cleanup hitter, John Mendoza, smashed the ball over the scoreboard, hitting a grand slam. We jumped to our feet and cheered as our players rounded the bases. Then Robert Jeffries hit a fly ball, and I almost caught it. The ball came sailing towards us, but I was ready for it. I grabbed my baseball glove and reached to make the catch. But just before it dropped in my glove, a big, sweaty, bald man who was sitting in front of us reached back and practically robbed the ball out of my glove. Then he turned to his little boy and gave it to him, patting him on the shoulder while giving me the evil eye. "Great catch, Daddy," the boy said. Then the kid turned around and stuck his tongue out at me. "Really, dude?" I said, shaking my head. I didn't want to argue with a 5-year-old, but really, that was majorly uncool. And Captain Sweaty Dad was a complete idiot. I glared at the back of his bald head. Emily smiled at me. "You'll get the next one, Alex." She was right. I wasn't going to let it ruin my night. Simon arrived during the 5th inning. He was wearing a Railhoppers baseball cap with a shirt and tie. I laughed. He's the only kid I knew who would wear a tie to a baseball game. "Hey guys, what's up?" he said as he climbed the steps towards our row. "Hey Simon, I see you're wearing your Sunday best for the game." He looked confused for a moment, then glanced down at his tie. "Oh, I didn't get a chance to change after my violin lesson. We had a dress rehearsal today," he said as he squeezed into a seat next to Danielle near the end of the row. Poor Simon. It was bad enough that he got roped into being her campaign manager. Now he was stuck with her at the game, too. "What did I miss?" he asked, leaning in front of Danielle so that he could talk to us. Danielle shot him an annoyed look, but he didn't seem to notice. Or maybe he just didn't care. After a while, you become immune to her evil stares. Trust me, I speak from experience. I filled Simon in on the game stats, and then we went to buy some snacks at the stand. Simon got roasted pecans, which smelled amazing. He offered me a handful, and they tasted just as good as they smelled. I thought about getting some myself, but instead I bought some blue cotton candy, which I tried sharing with Emily, but Dylan kept grabbing big gobs of it and stuffing it into his face. He was a sticky, gooey mess, and he kept reaching over me to grab some more. He was getting blue goo all over my arms and t-shirt. I finally just handed him the whole thing and said, "Here, you can have it." "Thanks, Alex," he said, stuffing more in his face. I sighed and shook my head. That's when Dad handed me Copper's leash and said, "Here, Alex, I need you to watch our furry friend for a minute while Dylan and I get some hot dogs, okay?" "Okay," I said, hesitantly grabbing the leash. I had a bad feeling about this. Copper was not exactly the world's most well-behaved dog, and I could only imagine the trouble he could cause here at the baseball field. But surprisingly, he was being really good. He jumped up into Dylan's empty seat and sat beside me as I gently stroked his ear, hoping that he wouldn't embarrass me in front of Emily. Emily nudged me and held out a bag of red licorice. "Want some?" she asked. "Yeah, thanks," I said as I pulled a piece from the pack. "Sure." She flashed me that Emily smile, which totally made me melt. Things were good, almost too good, but then something awful happened. The kiss cam started scanning the crowd. It's a video camera that zooms in on couples in the crowd, and they are supposed to kiss. It's all broadcast on the Jumbotron screen at the front of the stadium, so everyone sees it. Well, when that kiss cam started scanning the stands, I started to panic. What if it zoomed in on us? Would they zoom in on a bunch of kids? I hope not, but what if they did? What should I do? And then I started thinking that maybe this was my big chance. If the kiss cam zoomed in on us, should I kiss Emily? Would she laugh at me? Would she hit me? My palms were sweating and my heart was racing. What should I do? And then I saw it. There we were on the big screen. Emily and me with the words Kiss Cam flashing below us. I knew that it was now or never, so I took a big breath and closed my eyes. And suddenly I was being covered in kisses. Big, wet, sloppy dog kisses. You would swear that Copper could read, because there we were on the video screen with the words puppy love flashing below us. He was slobbering all over me on the kiss cam, and everyone in the entire stadium could see. Oh no! The audience was roaring, and Emily was laughing so hard that she was snorting. Danielle rolled her eyes and shook her head. Looks like the only one who will kiss you is your crazy dog, she said. I pushed Copper away and wiped off my gooey cheeks. I sunk down in my seat, wishing that I could just disappear. I was so humiliated. I just couldn't wait for the game to be over. Just then, Mom and Dad came back carrying a tray of hot dogs and sodas. Hey, there's our celebrity, said Dad, grinning. We just saw you and Copper on the kiss cam. That was great. I rolled my eyes and groaned. Yep, just great. Aw, don't be embarrassed, Alex. It was cute, Mom said, handing me a hot dog. I shook my head. Could things get any worse? I wondered. Just then, I got my answer. Copper sniffed the hot dog and jumped up and snatched it right out of my hand. Hey, I shouted, reaching to grab it back, but he dodged away, wanting to play chase. He darted down the stairs of the stadium, hot dog hanging from his mouth, as I grasped his leash and tried to pull him back. But he was too strong and I couldn't keep up with him. He ran so fast that I tripped on the bottom steps and fell right into the railing at the bottom of the landing. It was a good thing the railing was there, or I probably would have landed right on the field. I grasped the railing and fell to the ground at the bottom of the stairs. That's when I realized that my baseball hat was gone. Oh no! A feeling of dread came over me as I glanced down at the field below. There was my baseball hat sitting right in the middle of the first baseline. I gulped. What should I do? The Jumbotron flashed a picture of my hat lying on the field. The umpire called a timeout, and the confused players pointed at the hat, scanning the crowd to see where it came from. Then they slowly turned to look up at me. A bat boy hurried onto the field to retrieve my cap and tossed it back over the railing to me. The camera zoomed in as I grabbed the hat, while Copper slobbered all over me. I looked up and cringed. There we were on the big screen again. The announcer said, well, it looks like this doggy really loves his owner. What a pair. But here's a few words of advice, son. Just try to keep your hat on your head and off the field. The crowd roared with laughter. Everyone was pointing at me and Copper, laughing hysterically. It was the single most humiliating thing to happen to me in all of my 12 years. I stumbled to my feet and slunk back up the stairs, head down and cheeks burning. When I got back to my seat, even Mom and Dad were cracking up. Looks like you guys stole the show, Dad said, trying to catch his breath. Danielle shook her head and scolded me. Honestly, Alex, you need to learn to control your dog. You're going to ruin the whole game. Thanks, Danielle, I muttered. I sat back down, trying to not even look at Emily. She probably thought I was the world's biggest moron. But then she leaned over and whispered, It's okay, Alex. Don't be embarrassed. That was so cute. Then she reached over and squeezed my hand. I froze. My palms were sweating, and I just sat there paralyzed with fear for a moment. But I held her hand back, and we stayed like that for a few minutes. It was scary and wonderful at the same time. I couldn't believe I was holding Emily's hand. So that is how one of the worst nights of my life became one of the best nights of my life. And I knew that was a ball game that I would never, ever forget. I'm going to stop here. I'll pick up next week on chapter 8. Hope you're still enjoying the book. Don't forget to answer the comprehension questions after you watch this video. Have a nice weekend, and I will see you soon. Bye.